Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Waynesboro at Work, a podcast where we interview business leaders and entrepreneurs to learn more about the origin stories of their business, the passion they have for their work, and ways they give back to the community. I'm your host, Brooke Anderson, and I'm really excited to be joined today by Dana Pittman, the Executive Vice President of Virtex Corporation. Welcome to the show, Dana.
Thanks, Brooke. Good to be with you.
Thank you. So, viewers may not realize this, but we are here today on a snowy Thursday morning, and so I appreciate the fact that you could come in and do the interview today.
You bet. Looking forward to it.
So, for people that might not know, fill me in on what exactly Virtex does.
Sure, Brooke. Virtex is an electronic manufacturing services company. Simply put, we build products for other companies. We service the aerospace, defense, medical, and industrial markets. Recently through COVID, we've done a lot with the medical apparatus that supports the COVID testing. So we've been quite busy with that. But our focus is really with aerospace defense and a myriad of products from missile technology, electronics that go into guided missiles, to other industrial products you may use at your home, in your kitchen or what have you.
Wow. And you're Waynesboro based, and about how many employees do you have there at Virtex?
We have around 160 employees now here in Waynesboro and growing. And it's been a nice growth for us year over year. We've been very blessed to have a very vibrant industry right now we're supporting, especially in the defense area.
So you do a lot of important work there at Virtex. Where did your personal passion for this industry come from?
I began my career with GE in this facility that I'm in today and speaking to you from in 1972. I went through their management training program, and back in that time, manufacturing was pretty popular in the U.S. As we all know, over the years that migrated offshore to Mexico, China, et cetera. So the next couple decades, we saw that outsourcing. But I started with GE in manufacturing, and I've kept that focus all my career. I did leave GE after 13 years, working here at the Waynesboro plant and in Charlottesville. They still have a GE footprint there as well. And I got into this contract manufacturing, this electronic manufacturing service industry. And I've been there ever since. And so I'm still doing manufacturing that I learned back under the GE umbrella.
Right. Okay. So, the manufacturing career path is something that we've heard more and more. There's almost been a resurgence of encouragement for people to enter the manufacturing career path. So what do you think is so wonderful about that specific career path for folks?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I see the resurgence of that coming back to us, which is great. I'm very happy about that. We're speaking to students coming out of high school. We embrace them. Recently with COVID, it's been a little difficult to get those folks together with us, but we're going to rekindle that relationship. We're explaining to them, what manufacturing really is. I mean, sometimes people think of manufacturing as being messy and maybe not, clean. And we have a very clean environment. I mean, you can actually eat off our floors here. They're very, very, very nice to work under. The fact of the matter is, for a student or a college graduate looking at manufacturing, all types of technology, IT with data, information, programming of information. Some folks just want to use their hands and be creative. And I talk to college and even high school students, and many of them are saying, "Look, do you have product that I can assemble? Or maybe do some testing, something that's repeatable." Many of our employees like consistency. They like to come in and they like to do a job and know what's expected and just continue to do that. And we need those employees. And we also need employees who want to be creative and maybe grow within the company and do various things. So we need all of those skill sets. So again, when we're talking to folks, we actually bring them in on tours, and they can see folks assembling product, taking and building precision metal parts, maybe making cables and harnesses, and then show those parts going into our final systems at the end and being tested. So it's kind of neat to see it evolve, and that seems to be very intriguing to many of the folks that see it. Hey, we don't know you really do this kind of stuff here, we really are excited about maybe learning more. So we have follow up with them. Sometimes we'll go one-on-one with a student we've had in on a tour later. We'll bring them back in and talk a little bit more about what we do. But it's really exciting, and I'm very happy to see the resurgence of manufacturing in the U.S.
Nice. Yeah, I think that you really hit on an important point, which is that I think a lot of people have stereotypes that manufacturing equals factories,
Right.
the smokestacks with the smoke coming out of the top and that sort of thing.
Right.
But just like you mentioned, and as I've learned, there are a lot of different career paths, very interesting work that can be done. And
Yes.
then with what you do specifically, I imagine there's a real sense of pride because the products that you are producing, with your military and defense contracts, for instance, are really important. And can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, absolutely. Many of the products we manufacture actually affect our warfighter directly. It keeps them out of harm's way. Many of the missiles that we do, those missiles have to hit their targets, or we have collateral issues. As I'll sometimes, hopefully not often, read about. But basically, we've gotten much better with the guidance systems that control the rockets when we do get into situations of war, or what have you. The other things that we do, we've got a new thing that we actually helped invent here. It's a piece of equipment that, let's say that one of our warfighters gets injured in the field and has a wound that's bleeding out pretty well. Typically, they would just put some sort of a bandage around it or what have you. We now have a device that we actually developed that will cauterize the wound and stop the bleeding in the field. So we had a Navy SEAL that we worked with to do that work, who actually saw some problems in the field when he was serving and came to us to help design it. So yes, absolutely, we have a direct impact on the life of our warfighters, and we take that very seriously, as well as aerospace hardware. We build electronics that go in the cockpit of aircraft. They've got to work, and we can't have any failures. So again, about 75% of our sales are aerospace and defense here in Waynesboro.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very important work that you're doing. So as you mentioned, Vertex has been around for quite a while and you've expanded into a variety of industries. So tell me a little bit more about what the evolution of Vertex has been like and some of the milestones that you've reached along the way.
Sure, sure. Our focus has been to penetrate more and more of the aerospace and defense industry, especially defense. Many of your listeners might not know, but most defense articles must be made in the U.S. There's obviously reasons for that. We don't want those weapons to get into the hands of our enemies. So we keep the documentation and the IP, the intellectual property of that, under what's called an ITAR regulation, International Traffic in Arms Restriction in the U.S. So we have documentation, and the way we communicate information to our suppliers are very, very tightly held, very secure network systems we use. So obviously those customers are very sticky, and they're going to be with you almost forever. We deal with Northrop Grumman and all the big names that you would know here in the Valley. So the bottom line is that was something we wanted to more and more penetrate those markets, and we've done so. Again, 75% of our sales flow through those channels. Adding to our vertical capability, verticals mean, the precision machining, the cables I mentioned. We like doing things internally that control the end result of our products and our on-time fulfillment to our customers. So we've added here in Waynesboro a lot in the way of precision equipment manufacture capability. We're doing more and more parts for the aerospace industry here in our shop. We used to buy that. Now we make those parts. Same thing with cables and harnesses. So we've had a large infusion of capital assets over the last couple of years, and we'll continue to do so. And again, we're providing employment now to 160 families here in the Waynesboro plant. So all those things are very, very important and very important milestones to what we've done here.
Great. And I know that you are a Waynesboro native yourself, and like you said, employ many people that live in Waynesboro, and you have a business here. So what makes Waynesboro such a wonderful place to do business?
But it's a lovely place to do business. Of course, I was raised here, so it's been near and dear to my heart. I've lived around the country, but I've always kept a home here in Waynesboro in the area. Uh, the universities and junior college systems we have here have really helped with the draw of our employees, the technical assets we need here at the plant. So that's been a big, big factor for doing business here in Waynesboro. Another is the logistics of freight. We do a lot of freight, LTL freight. So having the ability to be on a 6481 corridor, I don't know what percentage of the traffic flows in the US, but it's a bunch. Being able to get the road logistics quickly and predictably to our customers is very, very important. And like I say, just being able to have that still a small town atmosphere that we enjoy here in Waynesboro, but having all the services that you would want, a nice place to raise your family. I had two kids that were raised through here. They're in their 40s now, but basically it was just a great place then and a great place now. And again, looking forward to bringing more manufacturing back into Waynesboro area here.
As you said, there's a big sense of community in the Waynesboro area. So what are some of the ways that Virtex actually gives back to the community there in Waynesboro?
You bet. So I'm personally involved with the Virginia Manufacturers Association with trying to work legislation with our state legislators that would promote manufacturing here in Virginia and here specifically in Waynesboro and the surrounding areas. So that's near and dear to my heart to make sure that we keep our legislative community honest with what they're doing and control them a bit, which is sometimes hard to do. We also have just such a giving group of folks here that work at the plant, always involved with community activities. Recently here at the Christmas holiday, we're doing warm shelter projects, Toys for Tots and those kind of things. But again, we sponsor all of that, and but our employees are taking the initiatives and giving of their time and resources to do that. So just a multitude of things we do, but all in all, just a very good place to be in community with the folks and see the growth and the families that we support. Again, we support 160 families here, and we take that seriously. And and this day of COVID and all the other issues, we've been blessed to not have any issues at all here as far as being able to continue operations. We were one of those service areas that could continue working. Since we did defense articles, we could continue working right through as a critical supplier. So we've been able to not miss a beat through this past year. So it's been a real blessing for us.
Well, that's really great that you guys have been able to continue your work there at Virtex, even in spite of the pandemic. I am curious, though, at the beginning of the year when COVID was first kind of announced, what was the response from Virtex, given that this was something that no one had previously encountered before? And then what was it like for you personally to be a leader during a pandemic year?
That's a great question, because this has been a year not like none other that I've ever experienced in my career of 40 some years now. I'll share with you, we have a facility that I also manage up in New Jersey. And as you all, your listeners, I'm sure are aware, New York and New Jersey was the epicenter, whatever you call it. The issue started there, at least in a widespread way. So my general manager there took the initiative, I think, well before the pandemic really hit, and we knew what it was around the January timeframe. To set up a series of initiatives that dealt with all the things you read about today, the social distancing. We actually put plexiglass between the workstations, mask wearing, temperature checking. We actually did that well ahead of anybody, saying that was something that we should be doing. So I have to give credit to the folks at my New Jersey plant for taking that initiative, and then we came off of that. We said, okay, that worked. Their caseloads were down up there. It really worked. So we put that in place here around February, I think it was, again, in front of any of the issues we had here in the Valley. So we did that, and we've had very few cases. We've had a few situations where employees away from the company have contracted it and quarantined. receive a positive test and come back to work. But it's really we've been very fortunate. But I think it's all because of the first effort that was put forth in New Jersey, and then we employed that best practice here in Virginia. And we've also we have a Massachusetts facility also that I manage, and we put it in there as well. And they've had virtually almost no activity with COVID at all. So yeah, it's been a rough year in that area, but we got in front of it, and we did all the right things.
Wow, that's really, really great to hear. That I'm sure being that proactive definitely helped in a lot of ways. So for you personally, as a leader, and you are a leader in multiple different places and multiple different states, what has it been like for you to be a leader in this challenging year?
Well, I think we pride ourselves in having a good culture, okay, within our company, and that's a milestone. I think setting the right culture and the tone for what we're all about. No one wanted to wear masks, no one wanted to do this or that. But I think getting our employees together, explaining what we had done in the New Jersey situation, and then around the March timeframe, April, things started getting hot here. Little click there. We get it. So I think communication, culture, what have you, helped us. And that's a tone we have across all of our plants, a very open, honest communication. This has been a trying time, for a lot of families. And I think just having that good, broad discussion and sharing those best practices and lessons learned, if you will, has really got us through this. And I'm very proud of our employees. They've now embraced it fully. We've had really, again, no issues at all. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. I do think maybe one of the silver linings in this is, in a lot of instances, it has helped teams at businesses kind of band together, because now we have this common experience of trying to persevere under really tough circumstances. So it sounds like that's what's been happening there for you guys.
Yeah, I look at the bright side too, Brooke. I think you're spot on. I think that there's something good that has come about from this. So, we learned a lot about one another.
Yes. So, one of the things I always love learning from the guests that we have on the show is what their personal philosophy is about being a business leader or an entrepreneur. So, what is your best piece or pieces of advice for other people that are thinking about a leadership role or entrepreneurship?
I get that question a lot. What's made your business successful? What's your, well, I tell you, answer your phones. If you're in a service industry, you need to answer your phones. I have 3 phones in my office, all separate lines. Sometimes they're all ringing, but it's really being accessible to your customers, both external customers and your internal customers, your cohort groups. Being available. I don't care what industry you're in. You need to be available to those folks. Number 2, I think, is setting a culture in your company that marries up with the goals and objectives you have. What do you want to be? What are you trying to do both now and in the future? Hiring well to make sure you're hiring folks that cannot always maybe buy in. We want input, but be able to deal and support those important culture issues within your company. How we treat one another, respect for one another. Attendance, going that extra mile, meeting your customers' expectations, all of those things easily said, but sometimes if they're not done correctly can really majorly impact companies. And I've seen it. And then, if you want to be in the manufacturing sector, I might just add, marry up with sticky customers. Our defense customers, again, their defense articles are primarily made in the U.S. By ITAR restriction. Try to get at least some diversity with defense products that you're going to have. You're going to do a good job for them. They're going to be around a long time as your core. And then maybe add some industrial medical products to that if you want to be in the manufacturing sector. That's the advice I would give. I've got some others, but I think those are the most important.
Okay, well, those are great. And I really love the fact that, with all the technology and advancements that we make, so often when I talk with leaders like yourself, and ask what advice they have, it really drills down to those fundamental things, like you said, of like, you have to answer the phone. And
Yeah.
but I love also the tactical advice of trying to identify what your sticky client might be, who that might be. So that's great advice. Well,
Absolutely.
Dana, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really nice to speak with you and to learn more about what you're doing there at Virtex. And really, really fascinating what you're doing in all these different industries. So we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Great talking with you, bro.
And for everyone that's tuned into this episode of Waynesboro at Work, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be coming back soon with more episodes of the podcast featuring Waynesboro business leaders and entrepreneurs. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about Waynesboro or the businesses there, please visit the websites and social media channels of Waynesboro Economic Development, Visit Waynesboro, and Grow Waynesboro. Until next time, stay safe and be well.